I've had the privilege of working with elephants for over 20 years now. I started working with 4 elephants back in 1996, 97. With these same elephants and another 3 of them, I embarked upon their reintegration back to the wild back in 2015. And in between this period, and currently, I've been working with a number of different elephants in various situations. Does this thing work? There we go. Today, I'll be talking about the status of the captive elephants and the industry in South Africa. As many of you are aware, the subject of elephants in captivity is a contentious one. There have been raging debates on the subject with extremely varying views as whether or not is it ethical. Stay near the mic and look sideways.
Just for the live streamers.
For the live streamers, okay, all right. No problem. There have been raging debates on the subject with extremely varying views as whether or not it's ethical for elephants to be kept in captivity regardless of the circumstance, even if the welfare is of the highest standard. In South Africa, the elephants in captivity are predominantly managed in direct contact systems, with only the 2 zoos managing the elephants in a protected contact system. Over the last couple of months, I've been updating the numbers of the elephants and facilities in South Africa from the last updates that were done around 2014, 2015, along with looking at what types of tourism are being offered and the various conditions that the elephants' daily lives are under. The main reason was to have an accurate figure as possible of the number of elephants currently in captivity and the facilities in SA, to see whether it was decreasing, increasing, or static, as well as to gauge current conditions in the various places. This thing doesn't work. There we go. It was clear when putting the numbers together that there's been a fairly significant decrease of around 23% from about 124, 125 elephants back in 2014 to currently 95 in captive facilities. The current numbers are fairly evenly split between bulls and cows, with bulls having been 44 and cows 47, but with only 4 elephants that are younger than the age of 8 years of age. The decrease in numbers was mainly due to the reintegration of elephants back into the wild, along with death and facility closure. With the implementation of the norms and standards back in 2008, this took away the ability to capture from the wild, which in effect curbed the industry from expanding a lot further. The facility numbers decreased by about 19%. Of the 5 operation closures, 4 were due to reintegrating elephants back into the wild, and then 1 facility closed its operation a couple of months back after selling the elephants off to Joburg Zoo, and those are the 2 new elephants that are in Joburg Zoo at the moment. The highest concentration of captive facilities is here in the Western Cape, and you can sort of put it down more than likely to establishing these facilities due to the volume of tourism that is in and around the Garden Route area. It also happens to be, this thing doesn't want to change, there we go. It also happens to be where the highest number of captive elephants are held. I think that just happens to be, it's not, Limpopo's got 1 facility with a large number of elephants, so it's more the facilities that are a concern. Amongst the current captive operation, there's been a huge shift away from the elephant back safari side to doing only interactions or walking with elephants. Of the 26 facilities back in 2014 that were operating, 15 of them conducted elephant back safaris, and this dropped to around about 3 where we are now, which is a massive decrease. The facilities that were only offering tactile interactions, no riding at that stage, also decreased by about 24%, but this was mainly due to the closure of these facilities. Why the decrease? The decrease in both sectors are mainly due to 3 reasons: public pressure, handling issues, which is battling to deal with a lot of the elephants, and ethical reasons, simply doing the right thing. All right, where we are. The facilities offering tourism activities vary greatly from 1 or 2 sessions per day up to as many as 9. The operations that offer numerous activities or sessions throughout the day create a situation whereby the elephants are continually being utilized for tourism and have minimal free time as such, creating a lack of freedom of choice within the environment that they live. This will, however, vary from day to day depending on the guest numbers. The activities offered is a mixed bag, and many of these operations being mainly about human entertainment, attempting to make the experience as interactive as possible, from hugging, touching the elephant all over, walking in front, kicking balls around and getting kissed by the elephants. The operations that offer a simple interaction where guests simply feed the elephants and the elephants cannot access the guests easily allows for a much better, safer environment and experience. But most importantly, the elephants are generally able to move away if they choose to. For most people, being able to interact with an elephant is a special experience without taking into account the history of that elephant. However, it is clear that the elephants themselves are interacting for mainly 2 reasons. The handlers are bringing the elephants to interact and control their movements from the ground or from atop the elephant. And then secondly, the food that the guests feed the elephants helps to retain the elephants at that interaction. As soon as the food is finished and the handlers cease to control the elephants, they simply move away. This highlights that the elephants would prefer freedom of choice and for the most part only interact with for the chance to receive food. The captive conditions varied hugely between the facilities from good to bad due to tourism and how the daily lives of the elephants are managed. There seems to be a link between what number of tourism activities are on offer, with a higher number showing poorer conditions. There, however, are ones with a lower number of activities which are also poor. In South Africa, we have an interesting situation regarding direct contact handling versus protected contact handling management systems. The tourism activities rely on direct contact handling to be able to simply operate with riding or tactile interactions. However, this type of handling comes with serious associated risks, such as injury and fatality for both the handlers and the guests. The statistics clearly highlight this risk. And when handling elephants in direct contact, it is not a case of if an incident will occur, it is a case of when it will occur. Now, whilst protected contact and zoo systems should be utilized, there is the potential that certain operations in South Africa, without considering the tourism aspect and purely the current elephant's current lifestyle, if they were to place the elephants under protected contact management, would in effect reduce the elephant's current welfare. Many of these elephants spend the majority of their day roaming on the reserve, feeding naturally, interacting with the environment, even though they are under direct contact management. On the face of it, however, potentially due to the way some operations manage the elephants, the space availability and high volume of tourism activities that the elephants are required to do, it would lean towards these elephants being in protected contact. To improve their welfare in captivity, naturally additional research would be required as to what the welfare differences and improvements would be. Saying that, though, it would be first prize for the elephants to have the option to live their lives as free-ranging elephants and not in captivity at all. And then what was very noticeable is the low number of elephant calves in captivity. There's only 4 of them under the age of 8 years of age. And 2 of those are orphaned elephants, and 2 were born in captivity. This, however, is not surprising due to the introduction of the GnRH vaccination, due to the introduction of GnRH vaccine, given given to pretty much all the bulls over a certain age, as well as some of the cows. In the bulls, the GnRH vaccine decreases the testosterone level of the bull to virtually zero value, thus preventing must from occurring in the bull, and the ability to breed effectively, if at all. With the ability to curb the must state of bulls in captivity, this allows the operations to continue utilizing the bulls in tourism, tactile activities, but at the same time, effectively stops the elephants breeding. Some operations would simply cease to exist without the use of GnRH on their bulls. Even when bulls have been placed on GnRH, this does not prevent management issues, and this only affects the testosterone-related aggression. It does not affect the mental aggression due to circumstance. I believe that the use of GnRH can be an effective interim management tool to ensure a safe environment whilst future management plans are made for the elephant and the operations. Unfortunately, it is all too common within the industry to simply move, kill, or sell an elephant, or be it a bull or a cow, without regard to the social structure disruption that causes for the elephant, and also in question, along with the elephants left behind. If they are kept at the operation, they're inevitably separate from the rest of the elephants in commercial use, so as not to affect the side of the business. This separation by management creates additional behavioral issues at the facility. Nearly done. Bellman. The majority of elephants in captivity are used purely for commercial and financial gain, with their welfare generally taking second tier. There will be argument from the various facilities that the elephants are looked after and enjoy interactions with guests and their handlers. However, if given the choice, their very elephant would prefer to free range without interference. This I've experienced firsthand with elephants I've reintegrated back into free ranging systems. In closing, it is my opinion that the captive tourism industry, not just in South Africa, but also other countries, require urgent attention. The reintegration of captive elephants back into the wild has been successfully achieved in South Africa and Botswana, and to some extent in Zimbabwe, and should be the main avenue sought for the current captive elephants. Yes, there will be challenges. However, the correct ethical approach is simply doing what is morally right for the elephants. Thanks very much.